And I just want to say thank you again for coming, joining us today. I mean, you are a kind of a hero. And when I looked at his biography, I mean, yes, you are. He's, first of all, one of the 375 Wimbledon members. There are no members. The All Law England Club has 375 members, and he's one of them. So I had the privilege to play, and I want to thank you. And of course, I lost, of course, to be able on the holy grounds. Thank you so much. It was one of my lifetime experiences, a bucket list. But you have an amazing career, right? You started early on. You were the British single title for national title in 1983. That's already pretty strong. Then his highest ranking was 145 on the ATP.
120.
Oh, there we go. See?
Wrong.
But in the doubles, I think you were even super high. You were at actually number 45 in the world, which is an achievement for sure. And interestingly, when you did the Wimbledon Championships, if I understand that correctly, back then you were number 591, and you came to the grounds and you kicked off in the third round of the Wimbledon tournament Goran Ivanisevic. So you sent him home basically.
That year I did, yeah.
That must have felt very good.
No, it was.
Yes, and since then he became a Davis Cup player, of course, and he also trained and coached many people, including 51 national champions across the world, and of course including this year's former Wimbledon female champion, Iga Swiatek, which is an amazing accomplishment as well. So we clearly have here one of the British greats in tennis. And on top of it, he is now coaching and training like corporates, many others that would like to be trained by a true professional. It's still your passion. And I, of course, appreciate you take your time to come here today. And today we want to talk about, what it takes to stay and become, and particularly to become the top of the top in a discipline that we all are in business, of course. All of you are top of the top in your industries, or at least in your businesses. And of course, we also want to understand what it takes to stay there. What's, your characters, your discipline in order to stay there, which is not an easy one. Before we do that, thank you very much. We'll hear an interesting story today about your life and, of course, your incredible accomplishment and achievements. Here we go, Nick Brown.
Well, thank you, Frank, once for a great introduction there. He's becoming my new agent. I know that. He just to let you know, he actually played pretty well actually when he was invited to Wimbledon on behalf of James, who one of my good friends we've known for many years, and we had a great time. But so tonight, unbeknown to you guys, that actually I am doing a little bit of talent spotting. So we will be asking a few questions and digging a little bit deeper to see if we've got the next national champion among you guys, So anyway, I'd like to start off. This is me a few years ago when I was playing professional tennis. I started actually in tennis purely by mistake, really. My father, we're on holiday up in Yorkshire. My father was invited to play in a tournament. He'd never played tennis before. He played a little bit of amateur rugby. And so he joined in the tournament. And when he came back off holiday, he bought a racket and he took me into the local park. So that's how I started playing tennis. Introduction at 7 years old. Okay. Went to the local club at 10. They said, "Oh no, you're too young. Come back in a year's time," which is what I did. And I started some group lessons. And then the passion for tennis, my enthusiasm for that sport kind of was started. And not to underestimate, everybody here has got kids or whatever. For them, the experiences you have with your kids, the things you do, the adventures you have, that may also, point them in a future direction of something they really want to be passionate about in the future. So I started playing competition like most kids from up in northwest of England. I came from Warrington, which is near Manchester. Those who bit of geography, they don't know that. I used to play football. I had trials for Manchester City as a goalkeeper. But tennis was a thing that kept drawing me back to the sport. I used to watch tennis on TV at Wimbledon. At the time, I used to drive my mother nuts by hitting the ball against the wall, trying to not break a few windows at the same time. So I started to compete locally. Then I was selected for my county, and then I started to play interregionally a little bit. And in the interim time, my father, in 1976, decided to say, "Look, why don't we go to Wimbledon to watch some tennis?" Of course, it was in my element. We went down, full Wimbledon experience. We camped out overnight, and that particular day, the following day, actually was men's semi-final. And that year, I first saw my idol in tennis, and that was Bjorn Borg. And he was a phenomenal at that time. It was the first championship that he won in '76, and he went subsequently to win 5 others along the way. And I came back from that experience, and I felt that that's what I want to do one day. I wanted to be able to play at Wimbledon and be a professional player. I didn't know how I was going to do that at the time, but that's in my dream what I wanted. And so fast-tracked a few years, I became British number 2, represented England, Great Britain in at junior level, and then won the national title as a junior under 21, and that exposed me to a different level of competition, of course, and then tried to make the way into senior rankings, which is a whole different ball game when you're talking about playing juniors and then you come to seniors. But my whole drive was I want to be a professional player, and in 1982 I managed to achieve one of those dreams when I first played at Wimbledon. I was given a wild card because I was one of the top players at the time in the country, a junior or a young player rather, along with my doubles partner Jeremy Bates. And I experienced Wimbledon the first time as a player, and that is an amazing thing because that was 44 years ago that I first played there, and I can remember it as if it was yesterday because it embedded in my memory so well. And those who've been at Wimbledon, like these guys, they've played there and they've changed. They got changed in centre court changing room, but of course, when you're not ranked as a high seed or a champion, you get changed in changing room number 2, which is kind of round the corner a little bit. In those days, there was no real computers. Somebody would just shout the score of what's happening on your court, and then the phone would ring, and the attendant in the changing room would then get up and say, shout your name, say, right, court 4, off you go. And you used to fight your way out the crowd, through the crowd, because there were no security guards at that time. The security guards were only for the main courts. It took you about 15 minutes to get to the court, and then you kind of come on the court, and I'm telling you, as a player, you then experience all these emotions of things start going through your mind. You've worked so hard for this moment in time that it's finally come, and you're trying to deal with all these thought processes. You're a little bit nervous, you're edgy, which is normal, and it's a nervous anticipation. You want to play well. And so I step on the court, and I'm playing against a big American guy at the time called Victor Amaya. He was 2 years before he nearly beat Borg in the first round at Wimbledon, and he had a serve 140 miles an hour. So we're playing on a wet grass court late at night. It's not ideal when you're playing against somebody like that, but when we started the match, I was so nervous. Actually, in the knock-up, I hit 3 balls outside the court. That's how nervous I was. So when the match started, of course, you go into lockdown. I'm thinking, right, I've got to make this guy play. I've got to play a ball, right? I don't want to make stupid here. I've got all my family, all my friends are watching. And I managed to hit 3 clean winners against the guy in the first game of the match, which is my first experience of playing on the grass. I don't know how I managed to go around the other end of the court. I kind of floated round. Unfortunately, I ended up losing that match in a tight match, but that set the kind of gave me that real drive and enthusiasm to really try and keep improving and try to improve my level above the weight.
Well,
so along the way, of course, you kind of come across many players. You probably, some of you may recognize this is Pat Cash. So he actually won Wimbledon in 1987. And living in London at the time, like I was actually lucky to be able to practice with a lot of these guys. Cash also lived in London, along with Stefan Edberg. So I spent a lot of time sparring with these guys, which obviously when you're playing with great players like this, you can't help but improve, you know. And so it was an incredible experience for me. And then when I got about 22 and a half, it was, I hit a brick wall really, in terms of my career. My ranking kind of flattened out. I was stuck around 300. My doubles ranking was around 120. And going back to that times, there was no real kind of anybody mentoring you or kind of guiding you in terms of your next step in your development of your career. You're kind of on your own. You're living through your own experiences and trying to learning on the way. And so I got really incredibly frustrated because, of course, when you're at that age, you want to try and start having a normal life. You want to be able to drive, have a car, maybe live on your own, maybe not with your parents so much at that age. And of course, I couldn't do that because I wasn't earning enough money. At the end of the day, I was doing a profession that I loved, but I wasn't earning enough money to sustain a proper lifestyle. So I turned to coaching. I stepped away from the competitive arena for a while. I went to work in Belgium and France, and then I came back to work for David Lloyd. David Lloyd had just opened his first club near Heathrow at the time, and I worked with him for 3 years. And through that, I was still competing, and at one stage, I'd still won the national doubles title, and then at that point in time, if you won a national title like that, the next year you automatically get a wild card into Wimbledon, of which I was given in the doubles. And so at the time, my father unfortunately was very ill, so I went back to look after my mother in Manchester, and I was literally working in Marks and Spencer's filling shelves for 6 months to make a little bit of money and just practicing and coaching a little bit of weekends. So 6 weeks before Wimbledon, I'm thinking, well, I've got to get ready for Wimbledon. I can't turn up at Wimbledon having not really played or practiced at the right level. So I used to finish my shift at 2 o'clock, go down to the local club in a place called Lim, where we had beautiful grass courts. And I used to grab anybody and everybody who actually was a decent player to be able to practice. And 6 weeks later, I turned up at Wimbledon. And after 2 days practice, we beat the world champions in the first round of Wimbledon, which is unthinkable. Seguza and Flack, American guys, we're seed number 3. And so I'm still thinking to myself, actually, maybe I can still play this game. You know, I know what I'm doing. And anyway, subsequently, 3 years later, I went back to play full-time tennis. And along the way, I came across these two guys. So in 1989, when I went full-time back, I was very lucky to come across, and it's funny in life how paths cross. You know, timing's everything, being in the right place. And Pat Cash actually was injured. His coach, a guy called Ian Barkley, was seconded to work with myself, Andrew Castle, and another player for a few months, and he changed my life. He became my mentor, my guardian. He taught me stuff about tennis that I didn't even know at all, you know. So at the age of 27, it was never too late to try and take these on board and employ them. And by the end of that year, I'd beaten my first Wimbledon champion, Michael Steek. He won Wimbledon 91. I'd beaten him. And subsequently, 2 years later, I beat Goran Ivanisevic. He won Wimbledon, beat Tim Henman in a amazing semi-final in 2001. But at the time, he was one of the favourites to win Wimbledon. He was seeded number 8 in the world. And of course, those kind of performances kind of just kind of rebuilt my confidence in terms of my ability to play at the high level. And I became 25 in the world in doubles. And my main drive really for coming back in the first place, second time around to play, was I never played Davis Cup for my country. And that was the one thing that I really wanted to do. So this is my Davis Cup debut with my mate Andy Castle. You probably know him. He commentates on TV. He's used to work for GMTV for a long time. And we made our debut together down at Eastbourne, playing against Argentina. And that was one of the most proudest moments of my life, to be able to do that. And subsequently, like Frank mentioned before, because I played Davis Cup, then I was invited to become a member at Wimbledon. And so that's how things unfolded. So at the end of 1991, 92, I decided to go back into teaching. And my main thing was that I'd really wanted to give back, particularly to British tennis, and give people my experiences and try and fast track their own ability to the high level and be the best they can be. Try and inspire them, create a passion, because for me, the passion in anything you do is the driver to come back and wanting to achieve more and more. And so I started working for the Federation for a long time. I worked for the governing body off and on for 24 years in different capacities. As a national coach, I was Fed Cup captain for the women's team for 6 years. And I was also heavily involved in Talent ID. So Talent ID was a system the LTA rolled out in 2007, and it was to identify young kids playing the game at the age of 9 years old and try and uplift and fast track their progress. And when we started that system, we identified all the players now that you're seeing on the professional tour, from Jack Draper, Raducanu, Arthur Ferry. You wouldn't know, a lot of you don't know him, but he just played Davis Cup for country. He's ranked about 150 in the world. Jacob Fernley, another guy. Those guys I used to work with for 2 or 3 years when they were younger. So obviously, I'll touch on my association with Polish tennis and how the relationship came with Iga. But as a coach, you dream, like when you were a player, to make a difference, right? And the dream of actually being able to help somebody attain their goal of being a Grand Slam champion in tennis is the ultimate thing, really. And obviously, Wimbledon is special for me, and this year, obviously, also special for Iga. So I've been lucky through all my career, really, that I've kind of coached at every level. So I've coached from beginner level, and this guy in your picture here was 4 years old when I started working with him from Cambridge. He became a multiple national junior champion. He played for Davis Cup, Junior Davis Cup for Great Britain. He wasn't quite good enough at the age of 17, 18 to go professional sport, so he took a different route, like a lot of kids do, and went to American University. So he got a full scholarship at Cal Berkeley University in America, where he came out with a first-class honors degree, all paid for on the back of his tennis. And subsequently, he's just been poached to go for another year to do a master's in Georgia State University now, where he's actually being paid $50,000 to play for the team. So that's how amateur sport has changed dramatically in this US now. It's always been great to go there for tennis, to enhance your tennis. But now there's big sums of money now being involved in actually keeping you, and it's all above board as it wasn't before, but is now. And so it's a massive attraction. These are some of the other people I've worked with, or like you wouldn't know this girl particularly, Elena Lakosova. She was Russian. So when I was working on the women's tour for a long time, of course, people see your work and they come up to you, get approached and say, you know, is it possible to maybe do some work together? She, when I started working with her, her ranking was going the other way. It was 50 in the world, and we got her ranking back to top 15. She became number 3 doubles player in the world. She's semi-finals the Australian Open, semi-final the French Open, and she won the mixed doubles at Wimbledon. Okay, so success. Cara Black, she was world number 1 in doubles. Okay, I worked with her for a while, and Lucas Kubot, also world number 1 in doubles. And you see Tim Henman there. Everybody probably heard of Tim Henman. Well, I worked with Henman for 3 years in my career. He's gone. And there he is as we speak to him. So when Tim was part of the scholarship scheme, which was started up by David Lloyd, he was one of 12 boys that used to come for bussed in from the school. It used to be at Reed School in Cobham. They were bussed into the club at Heathrow, and he was one of 12 boys. He was probably the 8th or 9th boy in that list in terms of ability at the time. This is the age of 11 he started. So 11, 12, 13, okay? He didn't win anything as a junior, which is incredible, because Andy Murray was winning a world title when he was 12, okay? Henman won nothing, but he loved the game of tennis. He breathed it. You went away with him, okay, on a tour, and he'd be standing next to you all the time asking him, why did the guy hit that shot? He was sucking up all the information like a sponge. This is one of the success stories really in British tennis, in my opinion, because you know his physicality wasn't as big or strong as anybody else, but he had a great brain and great hands. 6-time Grand Slam semi-finalist, 4 times at Wimbledon, French Open and US Open, became number 4 in the world. When I was teaching that boy at 11, 12, people were saying, well, how good can he be? And nobody had an idea. He had no idea how good he can be. Okay, at 17, his father came to me at Wimbledon. He just played junior Wimbledon, which is for under 18 age group, and he lost second round. And the dad said, you know, oh, this tennis lark, really, it's just complete waste of time. My son should give up and go to university like his brother. Exactly. And so I said to him, I said, all due respect, Mr. Henman, I said, you don't understand your son. I said, your son has a passion for this game second to none. He has a brain. He loves the game. I said, you have to give him 4 years. I said, at the age of 22, it's never too late to go back to education. I said, but these next 4 years are going to actually define what he's going to be in tennis. Okay, and I believe that because I could see enough in his ability that I knew. I said to his dad, this guy's going to make money at the game. The guy's going, oh, don't be stupid. You know what I mean? I say, no, he will make a living out of the game. And lo and behold, 4 years later, I'm in Miami, where the Masters Series tournament is being held. The dad's walking towards me across the players' lobby, and he comes to me and he says, good decision that. I said Henman was now top 40 in the world and on his way to be a top 10 player. Okay, and his mum and dad were great because they loved it, because they used to go to all the best tournaments in the world where the sun was shining, Australian Open, Indian Wells, Monte Carlo, and watch him play. I mean, how good is that? I know. But it is a good example of somebody achieving more than their ability. Okay, and that's what for me a coach is about. He's trying to bring out the best in that person to try and achieve and develop into the ultimate the best they can be. So this at US Open, Draper unfortunately has been injured since Wimbledon a little bit. He's got a stress fracture in his arm, which is quite unusual at this age, I have to say. But this guy, at the age of 10, 11, was just a competitive animal. Total different to Draper, his personality. This guy was cocky. He was up front. He was that year. He used to play over 150 matches a year at the age of 11, which is crazy amount of tennis. But he loved competing. Okay. So he's the future of British tennis at the moment in terms of the men, him and also his partner Jacob Firmly I mentioned before. But Draper may have a chance, I feel, in the future to win Wimbledon because he's got a big enough game to be able to form on the grass. So he's not only playing on the hard courts, playing on the clay courts. Okay, clay courts, most demanding surface for any professional, particularly when you come from our country, because we don't have many clay courts in the UK. So you have that opportunity to develop your game, as a lot of the Spanish or the South American players do. It's in the final in Madrid early on this year against Casper Ruud. So this young girl here, her name's Holly Fisher. I started working with her when she was here. When she was extend the left hand next time. Who's that guy talking too much? 8.5 years old when I started with her. The second picture is when she's in Florida. She's 11 years old now, getting ready for the World Orange Bowl, which is played every year in December. And then the last clip is when she's 13. At this stage, she just won the European Championship. I worked with this girl for 4.5 years. Okay. Interestingly, we talk about DNA in a lot of things. DNA in sport, obviously, is massive, right? Her father was a very successful hedge fund manager, a Canadian, incredibly competitive. The mother was American, and she had sprint trials for the Olympic sprint team. So she was rapid, fast. Of course, the kid inherited this genealogy, all right? She loved to compete, especially on the big stage, okay? And she was really destined for, in my opinion, great things. She, like I say, she won the European Championship at 12 years old, the best in Europe, top 3 in the world, okay? Fast track 2 years after that, the dad decided that he wanted to be a Mr. Williams. He wanted to coach her daughter. Knew nothing about tennis, and that was the end of her tennis career because he made poor choices, bad decisions. Okay. However, she's a smart kid. She is just she's at Harvard, finishing off a master's degree in Harvard, and but we lost her to tennis. She could have been, in my opinion, even better than Raducanu. Okay. This little lad is one of my well, that's his brother here, but he's Derek Chen. I started with him when he was 4 years old. Okay, Mum just brought the kids to me. He used to have 10 minutes a lesson from his brother's lesson, which the brother used to hate, of course. And he loved playing tennis. Here he is playing at 16. He's playing Junior Davis Cup for Great Britain. That was similar to Frank, the way Frank played when he played at Wimbledon the other week.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes, for sure. Not.
This is his final draw. You remove this there. So, got it. Remember. I just stop it. I just freeze it. Which one you freeze?
If you want to freeze
Just stop it, yeah.
just go through. Just let it go through. Oh no,
Freeze it.
Okay. There you go.
Okay, but I missed one before. Just before I go into that video, quick video of Polish tennis. In 2008, I was invited by a friend of mine if I'd be interested in getting involved in Polish tennis. At that time, they didn't have anybody ranked inside 300 in the world. Okay, so I went to Poland for an interview with the Polish Tennis Association. And when I arrived, I was totally shocked because I walked into a two-bedroom bombed-out flat from World War II. And no joke. And they had a table about as long as this. There were 8 guys around the table. And they were supposed to be interviewing me about possibility of enhancing Polish tennis and developing it. And so in the end, after 2 hours, I was interviewing these guys because they hadn't got a clue what they were doing. Okay, or wanted to do. They had no goals, anything. And so I started to work in the country with some of the national coaches. They had a budget of $1 million, okay, which they got through the Olympic Association with local government. That was it. If you can compare that to what British tennis gets, the LTA get a free check from Wimbledon for 55 to 60 million every year, no strings attached, to develop tennis. Okay, they had $1 million. That's it. Okay, we fast tracked 2013, 7 years later. They have 6 players inside the top 100. Okay, I have a guy called Jerzy Janowicz, who was 14 in the world. He made semi-final at Wimbledon. He was 20 years old. At Lucas Kubot, I told you about before, he became world number 1 in doubles, and he was top 10 doubles player, and he was 40 in the world in singles, another player. And then the women, of course, the Ravanska sisters came through with another girl. It was an amazing story. And we talk about why did that happen? Of course, well, anybody who's traveled, who's been to Eastern Bloc, you realize that, you know, the attention to detail and desire of people there, they want to better their lives. So they're more competitive than a lot of the kids that I'm finding at the moment here in the UK, who actually really want to achieve and be successful. So with that mindset, you can achieve anything if you put them in the right competitive environment, give them the help and try and enthuse them and give them the confidence to play at the top level. So the guys who we just turned before, these guys, they became number 3 players in the world in doubles. They put Polish tennis on the map to start with.
Well, we had very good shots with her, and that's our record. And we had a good round shots, so second shots, they're always taking the count off. And we're just very tough to play with because we're having big boys and we're not relying on a certain boy a lot. But if we're serving well and we're getting good ground shots, we can do that.
So I spent 7 years with these guys, traveling quite a bit on the tour to all the top tournaments around the world. They made the Masters final, so that's the top 8 teams in the world. They made it 5 years in that time. So they were pretty consistent, although they were not the best, they were. But they made the best of their ability, which is what it's all about. So then we came back to Iga, fast track, 2018. I got a phone call back from Polish Tennis asking me if I'd be interested in trying to helping a couple of their coaches with good young players. Iga was one of them. I was at the French Open at the time commentating for Eurosport. And I went to see her play, and I could see straight away, obviously, when you're looking at ability and having a vision at where that person maybe could go to, you could see that pathway for her. She made semi-final of the junior event there, and then came to Wimbledon junior. I managed to get her a wild card into the tournament, and she'd never played on grass before, ever. She practiced for 2 days. She drew the #1 seed first match. She lost the first set. She rolled the sleeves up and said, "I'm not losing this match." It was clear as day. It was like that watching. She won the match. So when she came off the court, I said to her, "Look, how do you enjoy playing on grass? You know, you're playing at my club. You know, grass is such a great set. Oh, I hate grass. You know, I don't like the bounce." I said, "Look," I said, "you got to change your mindset." I said, "You got to adjust a few things you're doing with your game to make a difference, to be able to play smart on grass and be successful." Anyway, every day, this went on every day after every match. Of course, she was winning. She gets to the final, or the semi-final rather. She was playing a Chinese girl, and the level of the match was incredible. It was such a high level. And I turned to her Polish coach, who traveled with her full time, and I said, "Look, you know, in 5 years' time, this could be the final at Wimbledon. This is what we're seeing now." And the guy, young guy, he was about 26, 27. He goes, "Talking rubbish, you know, nothing." Anyway, she wins the event. 2 years later, she wins the French Open. Okay, for the first time, won first of her 4 major championships on the clay. So I used to spend lots of time with Iga, going to loads of Poland, working with her own club, and also then she would come to Cambridge, which is David Lloyd Club in Cambridge, which is where I'm based. And she'd come and stay with my family. My wife is used to tennis refugees coming and staying at the drop of a hat and cooking for them and everything. And she would come with a coach or her trainer at the time. And then 3 years later, she became world #1 in her own right. I know that Ash Barty at the time retired, but she did it in her own right. These are just a little bits and pieces. Technical stuff we're working on with a game. In fact, some of that looks better than it is now. It looks like your volley. This is back in Poland. You know, typical Polish facility. Not extravagant, nothing flash, very basic, but players just want to make the most of what they've got to get better. Okay. And of course, this is at Wimbledon this year, which for me was very special because I was able to watch this courtside just unfold. So she's only one of 3 Wimbledon champions that actually won the junior event and the senior event at the same time in their career. Okay. Anybody have an idea one of the other people were? Your tennis enthusiasts?
Steffi Graf?
Steffi Graf? No.
Women.
Yeah, women.
Martina.
Martina. Who?
No.
Navratilova.
Very good. Hingis, good. Okay. And the other one, a little bit more tricky. She's French. No.
Jennifer,
She never won Wimbledon.
Justine.
No. She never won Wimbledon either. French. She's now tournament director.
Maresmo.
Correct. French Open. Emily Maresmo. Only one of 3 women to do that. Okay. There are 5 guys who have done that.
25?
Sorry?
24, 25.
This is this year, 25. 25. 25. And this, of course, another French Open title on your left, and on the right is when she won the US Open title in 2022. Okay, and you know, it's fascinating to see success, what it does to somebody, having success, whether in business or sport or whatever. The thing is, same thing with Hemmen and Iga, actually has not changed in one bit. They're still the same person they were when they were still struggling to make that next jump up the food chain, you know. And this on the right was one of my most great memories of this year. I was invited to the Champions Dinner. So it's a dinner that Wimbledon provide for all the champions and winners and their families and obviously close friends. So Iga invited me to the dinner, which was held at Raffles Hotel in London, not too far from here. Um, the other Grand Slams don't do that. It's unique to Wimbledon. It's very special, and of course, Iga's now experienced everything of dealing with royalty, being a Wimbledon champion, and the best thing of all is now when she comes to play at Wimbledon with me, I don't have to pay a guest fee for her because she's a member. So one of my other kind of passions really is to being coached to Cambridge University. I live in Cambridge, and I've been coaching the men's team for this is my 23rd year this year. And of course, most important thing about varsity tennis is the rivalry with Oxford. Okay, and it's all about beating Oxford. And so far we're doing pretty well because the score is 18-4 for Cambridge. So we've got to a little bit of hard work to do this year, but yeah, this is celebration actually 2 years ago with these guys, and it's something that I really enjoy doing because sometimes when you're teaching with young kids all the time, it's nice to have a little variation, decent conversation with people who know a little bit more about life, you know. Like in anything, is you get a little bit older, particularly as an ex-sports person, you need to kind of reinvent yourself a little bit, as you guys probably have done with your businesses and stuff. And it's no different for sports people. So I started asked to do some commentating just over 20 years ago now. Where I did a lot of stuff with the US Open, Australian Open, and French Open. And so that's been a really interesting fact because it's kept me involved with the top of the game and seeing all the best top players and seeing, more importantly for me as a person, how the game has changed or changes and evolved over that period of time so I can keep up to date with what I'm trying to instill in others. So I've done that. Spent quite a bit of time in China this last 18 months, doing a lot of looking at academies there, a lot of input in school programs, and upscaling some of their coaches' knowledge in terms of tennis, because tennis in China now is just taken off dramatically. Quintin Zhang won the gold medal last year, and it's just exploded. There's 40 million people playing tennis in China now, which is amazing. This is one of the clips from one of the photographs. That's actually at the French Open, and then the commentary booth we're at. So I've obviously, through my tennis contacts around the world, I've actually started to do, we do some tennis days with different companies, and I do run a couple of trips, tennis holidays abroad through the year. So I'm very lucky that I've kind of got a varied kind of job spec, which I really enjoy. I like I said before, for me it's all about connecting with the people you're with and motivating them and trying to enthuse them into the sport. But there's other skills, obviously, as a tennis player, like I mentioned before, you have to deal a lot with adversity, problem solving when you're a player and as a coach. And those are skills actually you don't really know you're developing when you're doing it, which actually then later on in life you can then implement into other things. So I've been extremely lucky from that respect, and that's why it's an adventure. And my next adventure, I'll be looking for here with you guys to see who's going to be the next senior champion.
For sure. Thank you. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Amazing. Thanks very much, Nick. What a journey. Unbelievable. And I want to, of course, open to the group for some questions. But before that, I want to have actually one or two questions myself.
Yes.
Because it's fascinating with how many people, young people, teenagers you work with that have actually now become in their career top of the game. So my first question was,
How good is Frank?
yes, exactly. How good
He's
is
got
he?
potential.
For sure, exactly. For the very senior players. No, but you know, players who reach the top of the world, in your view, what separates them from the ones that stay where they are? You know, can you identify a characteristic? Because this is kind of what leadership means when we start our businesses as
Yeah.
well. So how do you become and stay?
Well, my personal experience, I've been lucky because my personal experience is obviously with Iga becoming #1 in the world. You know, simple thing in terms of her ability to concentrate, focus. You know, you take her on the court and she doesn't want to leave the court until she gets something right. She wants to keep working at it. She has that drive. Obviously, the motivation, like I said before, she came from nothing. Her parents didn't have any money. Her dad was an Olympic rower. Um, but now, you know, her success story, what she's done, she's worth over 100 million. Okay, so those are the stories you hear about. The connection with her competitiveness, her ability to think under pressure, okay, and make tactical adjustments to what she's doing are one of the key things for her, that why she was #1. If you go to somebody like Andy Murray,
Yeah.
okay, and I know Andy Murray really well because obviously he's British. I know his mum really well. She's a bit older than me, but he literally pushed his body to the limit. He was obsessed about being #1. Of course, he was in an era of tennis we've never seen before. We had Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, and even Wawrinka fit into that a little bit. So he managed to win 3 Grand Slams and 2 Olympic medals, gold medals, which was incredible. And in the process, basically, his body broke down because that's how he was pushing himself to the limit. But he was so obsessive. Andy Murray. Sorry.
He pushed himself hard, and what happened?
He's his hip. He had a metal post on his hip. Basically, he wore himself out. Basically, playing.
So my other question in this instance is, can you are people born with resilience, or can you develop that through coaching?
No, I think resilience comes from a lot of personal experiences that you have. I think they're the best examples in terms of facing adversity and how you deal with it and coming back for more and waking up the next day and saying, right, I'm going to be better. I'm going to get something right, you know, the serve or whatever it is. I'm going to get quicker. I'm going to get faster. I'm going to get smarter. I'm going to study the game a little bit more. I think, you know, resilience, and you need bags of it playing tennis, I'm telling you, because I think professional tennis, especially in the men's game, is probably one of the toughest sports in the world to perform at the top level because the physicality demands of it are just so extreme.
Yeah. Okay, great, fantastic. I want to open up to you, the crowd, but you need to take the little microphone. And sorry, I don't know, it's very loud. I don't know, it wasn't that loud
Hi.
earlier. Sorry.
Is that working? I don't know if that's working. Oh, it's probably not any
You
better.
have to speak loud. It's just for the.
I'll speak louder. So, just question, given your own doubles experience as
Yes.
well, you get really high-ranking seeded players, but it almost seems from what you were describing, almost reversing the doubles, that they're ranked higher as doubles. So I'm just curious about why it clicks as doubles, but it may not click as an individual player. Is there something about playing in a double, which you've done yourself for many years,
Yeah.
that just works? You talked about it with the Polish players, actually. Is there a special thing about
Well,
being in a
the
double?
reality is, no due respect, but the guys who are playing doubles now generally are not good enough to play singles to make a living at. That's reality. These guys would not even be inside top 100 of the world. You know, you look at Salisbury. Joe Salisbury gave up playing singles probably about 8 years ago because he couldn't make enough money, and yet he became world #1. So at the end of the day, you've got to kind of, you're out there to make a living at the game, and so if you can do that playing doubles, and some people prefer playing with somebody else, they don't feel the pressure so much as together. and so they're more tailored to suit to play towards doubles. So they're going to do that. But I mean, singles players. I mean, there's a girl called Sonny Cartel now. So she was part of the regional group that we used to train when there were 11, 12. Same with Raducanu, right? They were in the same group. So she's just earned $1 million this year in prize money. Okay, and she's ranked 40 in the world. So that just shows you where tennis has gone in terms of the prize money in singles is huge now, massive.
Yeah, no question. Yes. Oh, thank you.
Only Fischer's father.
Yeah,
He made a mistake.
never.
Interesting.
No. He literally, it was just really shame because I kind of spent a lot of time trying to legislate and explain to him, but he thought he knew better. So it's sad, really. That's a really sad story. I mean, like saying tennis, you don't always get success stories. Okay, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on that that you wouldn't hear about.
Yes.
It's very sort of shallow success school, isn't it? Top 40 in the world, someone
Yeah.
like Dale Mid, which has to be a top 40 in the world. What needs to happen so that top 400, top 800, top 1,000, they're all exceptional players and make a living out of it?
That'll never happen. Never happen because it's the same in golf, right? You've only got a certain. Well, it's the prize money at lower level tournaments. It's not possible to divert that. I mean, what Grand Slam tournaments have done, which has been really good. Actually, Wimbledon were the first to do this. They actually upped their prize money in the qualifying. So you turn up at qualifying now, and you're guaranteed around £20,000 just to turn up in the qualifying. Okay, so you multiply that 4 times of all the other tournaments. That's 80,000 without winning a match. Okay, if you go to first round US Open this year, £60,000 first round loser. That's $250,000. Okay, so that magic number, the magic level we're talking about is 100. For your top 100, you're going to get into Grand Slams. Okay, and then you make exactly, and then there's other things you can obviously on the back of that commercially. Draper's just signed a big deal now with American company called Viore. Right, he signed a deal for $6 million a year. Okay, for a 4-year deal. Okay, but remember, he's 23, right? He's in the prime of his career now. Okay, Alcaraz and Sinner, these guys are on a different level. You can't legislate what they. I mean, Iga actually last year she was, I think, number 3 in the female earnings, and she earned around $20 million. So that gives you an idea of where it's at. So you gotta win. You gotta win, and you gotta keep pushing.
Yes.
You talked about actually working with people from 4 years old.
Yes.
You talked about DNA.
Yeah.
And you talked about knowing what the attributes are.
Yeah.
Rather than enhancing people like tennis, how close are we to going out to find people who fit that and make them tennis?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we did with Talent ID. When I worked in Talent ID for the LTA for 8 years, that's exactly what our goal was, to go and find, obviously, kids are already playing competitively at 8 and 9, and identifying them, selecting them on their competitiveness, on their physical attributes. We used to test them twice a year and have different physical tests, which actually can have a gauge. Then there was tennis, all these tennis drills you did, and that would be fed back to the coach, their own personal coach, so they can work on things and develop them. And out of that, like I said, all the players you're seeing now come off that scheme. Ironically, the LTA stopped that scheme when the chief executive of the LTA became Canadian. He destroyed it completely, which is absolutely criminal. And other countries like Holland, Belgium, these actually wanted to actually buy the actual scheme and transport it to what they were doing, because they could see the massive difference they've come, because obviously we had Murray winning Wimbledon. Okay, he single-handedly won the Davis Cup for Great Britain. We were the world champions in 2015. Murray was number 1 in the world. in 2016, his brother was number one in the world. I mean, tennis had this unbelievable golden age where they had the governing body had a great opportunity to really roll out a whole development which made it accessible and affordable for people in tennis, and they didn't do that.
You had a question.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't want to be controversial here. But what happened to Raducanu? In your opinion, at what point does it become difficult to? I know this is a controversial question. We all celebrated and cheered her when she won. What happened? And is that a pattern with
Well,
young
I
players?
can only see from what I saw in terms of her early development. Raducanu was always top 2 or 3 in her age group all the way through. Okay, she made semi-final world championships when she was like 14, and then she kind of dropped off the pace, and that's not unusual. Murray did that. He won the world championship at 12, and then didn't win. He won the junior US Open when he was 17. Okay, so there's a lot going on in terms of physical changes. You're changing your game, whatever, ready for senior challenges. But Raducanu, for me, she never really loved tennis that much. Okay, if you knew her, okay, she played tennis because she was good, right? And US Open was what we saw was incredible because it was like watching somebody with an out of body experience playing the final or semi final of that event, and she'd already been there for 10 years already. Okay, she was in a zone. But what people don't understand that in those matches, the one thing she had that none of the other players had, she had somebody right courtside speaking to her all the time, and that was Tim Henman. Tim Henman was commentating for Amazon Sport at the time. And so as a commentator, you're literally sitting on the court nearly. And he was talking to her all the way through the matches because his best mate was coaching her at the time. Okay, and I think that had a massive influence on her ability to deal with pressure, what was happening. Of course, when she won US Open, then everybody wanted to be associated with her, and IMG, her agent, went out and signed all these deals because the father was demanding that they deliver the deals. And literally, he'd be on the phone every day saying, "What have you done for my daughter today? What deal have you done?" So she signed literally, I think there were 14 key marquee sponsors that were with her. Okay, and most of those people are gone now. All right, because huge money was invested, and of course then she didn't really perform at that level. She was nowhere near that level, right? And it has to come down to the motivation, internal motivation herself to drive herself, and she actually was too busy doing the fashion shows and the Formula One and enjoying it, which is great. Okay, but what about all the other great champions? They were able to get the balance right, and so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm a little bit surprised she's still playing. I have to say she did pretty well this year to get her ranking back where it is, but she doesn't really love the game. That's the problem.
Okay. Anyone? Final. Wendy. Yes.
Very exclusive club, Wimbledon then. 345 members, count as one.
358, I think, full members. Yeah. So, like I said before, to become a full member, the quickest way in, okay, which I explained to Frank when he was there, because he said he'd like to be a member.
I'm working on it.
Is to win the tournament. Okay, because as a winner, you
I have
get
a good
automatically
coach, so
you get
that's already-
invited to be a member. Okay, if you're British, like I said before, if you play Davis Cup or Fed Cup, that's a way in to be invited. That's how I became a member. I've been a member now 36 years. I've been a member of the club, and I tell you what, as a member, you never take for granted the membership you get, because even when you walk back through those gates, when we played the other week, you still get that feeling of actually belonging where you're walking into the history about the club, and appreciate that. So it's never lost. There are a few exceptions. So as coach of Cambridge University, the club is very closely affiliated with Oxford and Cambridge. Oxbridge They have a biannual match against Harvard Yale every 2 years, and Wimbledon are heavily involved in kind of the funding of that, and so therefore each year the club will approach me to see if there's a player who warrants to be put forward to be a member, and they might be put on the list. They have about 100 temporary members. Okay, so when you become a temporary member, you can access the club, of course, but a full member, you have full rights, which is totally different. The reason why they've capped it at the full membership at 358 is because every full member has access to 2 seats on centre court and 2 seats on court number 1, and so therefore they keep it at that number. And then you do have other sections that people invited to, if you have somebody, for instance, the club maybe invite somebody who is an expert in their field in terms of, so for instance, I'll give an example. At 2008, in the financial crisis, we had Mervyn King was invited to be a member because he played tennis, be a member at Wimbledon, so he could advise Wimbledon then of their investments and what they were doing going forward. Okay. So there are a few exceptions like that. So that's why I said Frank's best option of being a member maybe is something like that.
I have a good coach, so I mean, I'm getting ready for it. Thanks. Kelly, you had a question.
I just a very quick one.
No.
I've been a founder and I've been a co-founder, and the two are very different in the whole experience. And I wonder if there is any insight from playing doubles that can be translated into the business world, because navigating that relationship is very different, and I think there's some key insights there that you can probably share about how do you navigate that tricky situation with a co-founder.
Well, when you're playing doubles, but in a doubles relationship, or I mean, similar, I suspect when you're dealing with parents and stuff, also with the player, because then you're not always just dealing with the player; you're dealing with the people around them, which also is tricky. I mean, obviously, the one thing you're going to make a connection with those people, right? You're going to kind of get a trust, spend time with them, and then try and kind of develop that philosophy of what you want to get over with them. In terms of relationship with doubles team, it's a thing about you gel with. I mean, it's either, I guess, same in business. Sometimes you kind of work well together, or you don't you just don't have that. Your personalities don't mix in the right way, and so it's not going to work. And you maybe have a different skill set also that you bring with somebody else that actually is successful. So it's doubles is like, I played with quite a few doubles people, not for the sake that I wanted to do that, but it's just the way that evolves. People get injured or their ranking drops, so you're playing with somebody else. So you have to kind of develop that relationship on the court, and obviously off the court, like you try and do a few things together that brings you together.
And how quickly do you get rid of them?
Well, I mean, you've got to be ruthless. Okay, with players, of course, sometimes it's difficult because contractually you might have signed a contract with that person, right? So that has to run a term. But other situations, they can happen, straight away.
Leander and Mahesh are friends.
Yeah.
You know Leander and Mahesh. These are Indian doubles players that had such a massive falling out after winning maybe 6 or 7 Grand Slams.
Yeah, they won everything, really. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Pays was a good player.
Great. Thank you very much, and thanks to Nick.
Pleasure.
A big applause for him.
Thank you
very much. Wonderful. Please stay. You will stay hopefully for a drink, even though you don't drink. You coach me.
Yes.
Drinks are here. We're getting some nipples and some food now.